Back down here in Crane's Roost. More on my usual schedule down here. A little warmer this morning. Going to be 77 today. Get rainy again tomorrow. And then next week, nice and cold. They say parts of Central Florida get some snow and ice. I don't think that's coming down this far, but that'll be interesting. I love that color back there. Got these people halfway around the lake. Can hear them screaming at each other. Yesterday I kind of got off on a different subject from what I was planning to talk about. So I decided the video that I was originally planning to make this weekend, I'd go ahead and make it now. Even though I'm kind of doing a video overload right now. Actually tonight, I'm going to take some video at the Divina Carne Brazilian Steakhouse. One of my wife's friends that she was working with, she got a rosary for her over in the Philippines when she was back there a few months back. And then her friend now, she's working somewhere else. I love these colors. She's working somewhere else now. And my wife said the other day, man, I still haven't gotten that rosary to her. So I said, find out what she's doing Saturday night and we'll just take her out for dinner. And this new steakhouse has only been around a couple of months. But the interesting thing is, it's a Brazilian steakhouse, but I guess they have sushi too, which I think I was thinking about a sushi place. I think this other person might not be a huge fan of sushi. So we'll do a carnivore diet today. But to get to the point, what I was wanting to talk about is all these comments that you see from different people about their experiences in the Philippines and things that people think are negatives. You know, a lot of people like to harp on certain things, on you know, the roosters and the dogs and the motorbikes and all this stuff. But really the experience a person has of the Philippines and how they respond to it and what they think it's like when they move there is going to be totally different for everyone, because that is determined by your experiences before you went to the Philippines, you know? Not everybody lived the same life back here in America or Europe or Australia or wherever else before they go to the Philippines. Sometimes things that are a negative or an annoyance, really huge annoyance for one person, are not an annoyance at all for somebody else who's just had to learn to put up with more stuff in their life, you know? Someone who has lived isolated from all kinds of noise and problems and loud neighbors and things like that for their whole existence, they go to the Philippines and have to deal with that stuff, then it's going to be an issue, you know? On the other hand, as the one person commented the other day, they're living in a gated community where there is no noise or karaoke or chickens or dogs barking and stuff like that. And so life is great. I don't know. As I've pointed out before though, you know, you live in a place like that, you could almost be in any country. But it's nice to have that kind of a place as a refuge. And you can still go out and do things and travel around the Philippines, you know, if you can live that kind of lifestyle, and then you can go back to, you know, that nice quiet little existence when you're on your own time, not really traveling, and just want to be able to go have a place to live. I know myself, you know, I love the city. I love Manila, Cebu, different places. On the other hand, I grew up out in the country, surrounded by dairy farms. My father's whole side of the family were dairy farmers. My mom's side of the family were coal miners. You know, back when I was a kid, I was there with a pitchfork and a shovel, cleaning out stalls, you know, and throwing shit into the little shit conveyor belt we had in the barn. And and watching it go off to be dumped into the manure spreader and then sprayed all over the fields, and all kinds of other hard work and bad smells. So I've got that side of me too, you know. But I do love the city. I've spent a lot of time living, you know, especially like here around Orlando. Right back up over behind me, you got the Altamont Springs Mall and things like that. Any kind of restaurant or whatever you could want. So it'd be nice if you could have both of those things. My wife talks sometimes about, well, maybe after I'm there, you know, we're there for a while permanently, maybe get a little condo or something in Cebu City. We could go take a ferry over to Cebu City, you know, instead of like Manila. But on the other hand, I love that area over around the U.S. consulate and the Mall of Asia and Robinson's back in behind there. You know, the little shawarma shops down on the little streets and alleys and everything. There's good elements to both places, so it'd be nice to be able to incorporate both of those into my lifestyle eventually. I know my wife has the typical, I think, of Filipinos attitude that because I've said before, we could just like rent a little place over there pretty cheap, and she always talks about how it's better to own something. I don't know myself what the pros and cons are of, I see a lot of foreigners owning condos and stuff in the Philippines, but that market's kind of crashing from what I see lately. There's such an overabundance of those places. They're so overpriced and undersized. I don't know. But we'll see. Be nice to have a place where if we want to shoot over to the city, but we could always just get an Airbnb or something for a week or two, you know, whatever. If we wanted some of that city life and do that, you always have options over there as long as you got a little bit of money. The problem for a lot of people, though, comes into if they just don't really have enough money to do that. But the people who maybe don't really have a lot of money and they can't really afford to insulate themselves, you know, from all those things that a lot of people would call negatives, is that they've probably already, for the vast majority of their life, had to deal with a lot of hard circumstances. And for them, the main thing is they're retired. They don't have to get up and stress about going to work every day and wear themselves down. They can just chill. And they don't care if there's a few dogs barking or there's some roosters and things like that, or they're not living in the most luxurious accommodations. And that's not something they need to do to impress anybody else. They're fine with that. And that's the way, honestly, most of us, you know, we're not rich people, the vast majority of us. You know, I've been lucky in my life, even with all the money I've wasted and everything, that I got a job where I was going to be able to get a pension and stuff, which a lot of people don't have. So I'm glad I made that decision in my life. Certainly, if I had lived a different lifestyle, I could have a ton of money put away, but I was more interested in going out and enjoying, and I was on my own and single for the vast majority of that time, and I just wasn't really worried about all that. I thought, well, someday I'll get around to getting myself squared away pretty good. Of course, now I am married to someone from the Philippines, and honestly, in some ways, probably better for me financially than what I might have done otherwise if I had been, you know, if I decided someday to retire and stay here in America. If I was still on my own or whatever, because I would have needed a lot more money to be saved. Whereas if I'm going to the Philippines, you know, like I've said before, we've got a house already built over there. You know, if I can move over there with a pension and Social Security, assuming, you know, like you never know, you know, what politicians are going to decide to try and steal that from you down the road. But, you know, you can't really stress about that. You just have to live and see what happens. That's all any of us can do. But for me, going to the Philippines, I'm not expecting to live in a place where there's no noise. I'm insulated from everything. And if I have to deal with some little annoyances like that and some dogs barking, it's not going to be the end of my life, you know. The main thing for me is I'll be chilling and not working, you know. If I want to go out and travel around and shoot some good video for my channel, different tourist spots, different travel things, I'd kind of like to do some fitness stuff, you know, how to stay in shape, workout, diet stuff as a retired expat, and focus on some stuff like that, and work on my writing, get back into my screenwriting and stuff, some novels I'm working on. So I plan to have plenty of things to do to occupy my mind and my time, but it's going to be things that I want to do. I like my job and all of that, but it's a job. When I'm at work, even though I enjoy my work and I'm out delivering mail, I've always enjoyed being active physically and going out. Being out on my own doesn't bother me. It's kind of nice, be out alone with my thoughts and just doing my thing and nobody bugging me. So I like my job a lot. And I'm very happy that I have the job I do. But still, it's a job. You know, that time out of my day, I'm doing something for someone else. I'm doing it because they're giving me money and I can pay my bills. But once I get to the point where I can retire and still have enough money coming in to take care of all of that, then I can start spending my time on the things that I really want to focus on and that I enjoy, and be on my own schedule. And that's the key for me about retirement. It's not about being able to go do a bunch of super crazy stuff, live some kind of exotic, wealthy lifestyle. It's having a good life, having enough to get by, and certainly it should be a comfortable enough lifestyle that I be at least as comfortable as what I'm living here. I'm not living some kind of extravagant lifestyle. It's just a normal life, you know, which is what most of us live. There are things that I'll have to give up in America that we have here in the Philippines. But what kind of things are those? Like, I won't be able to walk around carrying a gun. And one could argue that maybe living over there, I might be more in need of one than I am here sometimes. But, you know, I'm not paranoid, freaking out about stuff all the time. I can't really think of anything else I'm giving up. I don't know where I'm going to be living. I could drive over there. I wouldn't want to drive around in some of those major cities where nobody, follows any kind of traffic laws and all the intersections are free-for-alls. That's not really something I should probably get into. But out in the small town where we're going to be living, in that area, I could still drive. I have no real desire, if I go off to Cebu or Manila or something, to necessarily drive myself around. Like I say, if I'm retired, I don't really have a schedule, you know. Hey, if it takes me a while to get there in a cab, whatever. I'll sit there in my cab on my phone and do what I'm doing, or look around and enjoy the place. And that's what I'm looking forward to. And a lot of people, when they retire, that's what they're looking forward to. Some of these people, they might not have a lot of money when they move over there, but they worked like dogs their whole life. And for them, just being able to find a place where they can pay the bills and survive and not have to stress about that, and they don't have anything to do all day unless they want to do it, that is something you can't put a price on. You can't put a price on that. So for a lot of people, while some may say this little thing is a negative and that little thing is a negative, it all depends on your perspective and what you're coming from. Because most of us aren't going over to the Philippines looking for some kind of, wealthy lifestyle and all of that. I'm just looking to live, I've got my wife, we've got our family over there, like I say, our 2 nieces, who are basically like our daughters. We've talked about trying to actually adopt them at some point. But we've missed out on a lot of their life over these past years that my wife's been here. They're not little girls anymore, they're young women, By the time we get over there, they'll be getting ready to start college. So we'll have that going on, activities there with them going to school and everything. So I'm going to have a full family life while I'm there. We've got a house. It's just going to be a normal existence for me. The difference will be I don't have to screw around working. So that's what I'm looking forward to. And that's, I think, what most people who move there gain from it. It's not about some kind of extravagant lifestyle. It's about just being able to chill. There I go again, using that teenager word. Somebody asked me if I'm a teenager when I said that. Though I think that word originated in its current usage back in the 70s or something, if not earlier. So maybe I was a teenager back then, see? And I'm just still using it. At least I'm not saying far out like we did back then. Anyways, I've rambled enough. But that's the key. How you're going to respond to the Philippines, what you're expecting to get out of it. It's all dependent on what you experienced here and what you've already gotten used to dealing with. Some people just can't deal with shit, Oh well. Some of the rest of us have been dealing with shit our whole lives and had to learn how to do it. And the thought of a few dogs barking and stuff isn't really a deal breaker.